Yeah.
Yeah, because Republicans are saying that they're simply responding to how the census was handled during the Biden administration, and they're saying that, look, there are 3 states out there where there's perhaps 40% registered Republicans, and there are 0 representation for Republicans here in the Congress, and that you're claiming for something hypocritical as a result of that. What's your response?
Hogwash.
Exactly.
Hogwash. Hogwash. That's my answer to that is give me a break. Look at the data, not the rhetoric. Look at the data. It doesn't support that claim. And it's one thing to now pivot from reality because Donald Trump asked you to. And it's another thing to look at the census, look at the numbers, look at the maps as they are. You didn't hear any of these arguments until roughly 5 weeks ago when Donald Trump said, I need to get 5 more votes out of Texas. These manufactured arguments were non-existent. So my answer, hogwash.
And let me say this too, Troy. I was going to say, I've heard the Republicans say that on Fox and through their social media people, but you're talking apples and oranges. You can go and look at all 50 states when they did redistricting in 2021 after the 2020 census came out, and you can critique what the geography and what the map drawing looks like. But we are talking about mid-decade redistricting, and that's why people don't like this place sometimes, is because people try to confuse people. And we're not talking, the Democrats have never, ever done mid-decade, no. Democrats have never done mid-decade redistricting, and you're trying to conflate mid-decade redistricting with the redistricting that's done at the beginning of the decade, and we're not going to let that happen.
Yeah. Did you want to say something?
Well, I just wanted to say that the Voting Rights Act, Section 2, doesn't protect black voters. It protects minority voters. The browning of America is real. And as my brother from Louisiana said, as we get browner, the flow of who is in the minority will be different. So it's us today, but it may be you tomorrow. And here's what I know for a fact. Those 40% Republicans are not, their vote has not been diluted, because in Alabama, where there are 7 and there are 2 of us that are Democrats and there are 5 that are Republican, they got 5 people representing them. The reality is when we are underrepresented, we have no voice. When we are underrepresented, we have no voice. There's a distinct difference in that. And I also just want to add that the John Robert Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, while now it is replacing Section 5 by giving a modern-day formula to determine which states have had a history of voter discrimination, that same piece of legislation can equally deal with voter dilution.
Thank you.
The genesis of this is Texas. I have the letter that the Attorney General of the United States sent to the state of Texas, and the last sentence in the letter reads, if the state of Texas fails to rectify the racial gerrymandering of Texas 9, that's the district that I currently represent, Texas 18 was represented by Sylvester Turner, who has made his transition, Texas 29, Sylvia Garcia, and Texas 33, which is Marc Veasey. The Attorney General reserves a right to seek legal action against the state, including without limitation under the 14th Amendment. Now, the lines were drawn by Republicans in Texas. The president, by and through his agents in the Justice Department, are indicating that those lines were drawn with racial intentionality to put black people in office. Well, the Attorney General for the state of Texas, I have his letter here. I'll give them both to you. Attorney General for the state of Texas said, oh, no, that's wrong. We don't draw lines like that in Texas. He goes so far to darken, the only language that's darkened in his letter reads, the Texas legislature did not pass race-based electoral districts for any of these districts, okay? So the Justice Department introduced the race card by indicating that we, people of color, had lines drawn to benefit us when the state of Texas says it didn't do that. And for further edification, the state of Texas has been sued in every decade since the Voting Rights Act has been implemented. It was the state of Texas that had all white primaries. Only white people could vote in the primaries. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court. A dentist out of Houston, Texas, Lonnie Smith, took the case to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, Texas, you can't do that. You can't have an all-white primary. Texas said, okay, we'll have all-white pre-primaries. It's literally what happened. So Texas is being challenged because of the racial gerrymandering. It is racism. This is why we are here saying to you, it looks like people of color are being targeted. Now show me where that's happening in these other states as it relates to other people. These are people of color. This is racist. That's why it's different. It's racist. Thank you.
During a press conference alongside the Congressional Black Caucus on Tuesday, a reporter interrupted Representative Marc Veasey, Democrat Texas, as he was speaking about Republican claims of underrepresentation in Congress. Veasey dismissed the arguments as hogwash, urging people to focus on actual data instead of rhetoric. He noted that complaints about representation only began surfacing after former President Donald Trump called for additional Republican votes out of Texas, framing the issue as politically driven rather than based on fact. Veasey drew a sharp line between the routine redistricting process that takes place after the census and mid-decade redistricting. He stressed that Democrats have never engaged in redrawing maps mid-decade and accused Republicans of conflating the two to confuse the public. Other members of the caucus added that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act protects all minority voters, not just black communities, and that demographic changes will continue to shift who falls under that protection. They argued that Republican voters are not being diluted, pointing to Alabama as an example where Republicans hold 5 of 7 congressional seats. In contrast, they said minority communities remain systematically underrepresented, leaving them with little voice in Congress. Lawmakers highlighted the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act as a modern safeguard against voter suppression and dilution, explaining that it updates protections once guaranteed under Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. Veasey also zeroed in on Texas, citing a letter from the Justice Department warning the state about racial gerrymandering. The letter stated that congressional districts such as Texas's 9th, 18th, 29th, and 33rd showed signs of being drawn with racial intent. If Texas failed to correct the maps, the DOJ warned it could pursue legal action under the 14th Amendment. Texas officials rejected those claims, with the state attorney general insisting that no race-based districts were drawn. Still, Veasey reminded reporters that Texas has a long history of discriminatory practices, including past attempts at all-white primaries that were struck down by the Supreme Court. He argued that today's legal challenges echo those same patterns, calling the current maps racist and designed to suppress the voices of people of color. "This is why we're here," Veasey said. "This is about racial targeting, and that's why it's different."